So people are accusing this legendary producer and beat maker of exploiting child artists.
I seen people calling me a predator. You should blame the parents for letting me do what I did to the Krisses.
I didn't know this was happening, but basically, and I've always said this, one of the most underrated producers and beat makers of all time is Jermaine Dupri. And way back, he met two kids, both named Chris. He turned them into a rap group that became known as Kriss Kross. He made all the beats. He wrote all the song lyrics. He produced all the songs. And if you understand the music business, you know what that means when it comes to IP ownership, royalties, etc. They were a huge success. Jermaine Dupri went on to produce, I don't know how many hits he has. I couldn't even count them all. But now he's on social media doing interviews defending himself against the allegations that he took advantage of those kids when he signed them, when he started working with them. And I know a lot of producers out there always talk about developing artists, locking in with one single artist. And what ends up happening with us is we end up doing a lot with the artist. If we're not vocal producing, if we're not co-writing lyrics, then we're absolutely just making the beat, probably tracking the vocals, producing the song, if not marketing the song, working on just general artist development. So where do we draw the line between keeping what's ours, keeping ownership of what we created, and being good, fair collaborators? I'm actually, for once, I'm curious to read the comments section because I want to know where people are weighing in on this. I think it's a pretty complicated conversation. This is one of the more complicated producer-related stories I think we've ever covered. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let's just get right into the thick of it.
I'm gonna get right to it. I ain't even play no games with this. Earlier today, I posted this clip from Earn Your Leisure interview that I did, where I'm talking about me writing Kriss Kross' first album.
100% writer. Right. So like, say for instance, like Kriss Kross' first album, or Kriss Kross all of the album, I wrote, with the first album, I wrote everything on the album and produced everything on the album. So therefore you know, that's 100% of, like, therefore I get 100% of every piece of the pie that's coming when it's publishing, right? So that's what I'm saying. So soon as Kriss Kross sold 2 million, it was $1 million at my door.
$1 million from the.
But they sold 2 million. They sold 2 million records like in like 2 weeks.
From publishing, just from publishing, it was $1 million.
Yeah, it was $1 million already. Like it's like they say it's in the pipe. They call it, like, you know what I mean? It's in the pipeline. So once you start selling records like that.
Just with that first clip, Payne, and honestly, I don't think the way Jermaine Dupri talks, it sounds shady, but that part made sense to me, right? Like, if he wrote and produced everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, then he should own 100% of the publishing. Anything of that piece not make sense to you, Payne, or anything that you would have question about?
I agree with you because you have the interviewer who seems a little confused, and then you have JD who's talking extra fast. It's just not a good combination. But no, it makes sense. I don't think he said anything that gave me pause or gave me reason to believe he was doing anything, you know, extra grimy or beyond the pale of music business ethics. But yeah,
The other thing that people might be confused by in that clip is that he said as soon as they sold a million copies, or $1 million showed up at his doorstep. Now, publishing doesn't happen that fast, right? Like,
it's like a 9-month delay. So
yeah. So what I'm assuming and what I think he alludes to is that he got an advance on his publishing. Like, as soon as they sold that many records, he was able to get access to an advance that he would then have to pay back when publishing royalties start flowing in. Right.
That makes sense. Yeah, and he'd probably recoup that pretty quickly.
But let's see. Let's watch another one.
Everybody know the money is there. Right? So then people just start showing up like, yo, I give you, you know what I mean? If you, let's do 50% of your publishing, we give you $1 million advance, That's when advances start, because they can see the money.
If you own a label and you get in the masters, and then you write the music and you get in the publishing, and then you produce the music, so you get all the money.
You don't get all the money. But
what else is there to get?
I mean, but by the way, you get a significant amount of money.
A large,
but
the lion's share.
You get a significant amount of money.
And producing their first album and being 100% writer. The comments in this about this is crazy. I seen people saying I took advantage of the Krisses. I seen people saying I finessed them. I seen people calling me a predator. Man, I seen people say you should blame the parents for letting me do what I did to the Krisses.
So actually, I got to play, because we didn't add too much more to the story. He just kind of explained what we were about to explain. But people need to understand that, like, Kriss Kross, and I think I got to play the right video, but Kriss Kross wasn't a group when he found them. They weren't even artists when he found them. Like, he found them, I think, in a mall, and they were just hanging out, and he just thought they were cool kids. And he said, "Oh, you guys should be a group." So I don't know what their management situation was. I feel like anytime there's something hot, people come flocking and want a piece. So I don't think, there's very rare that, like, everybody feels like they got a fair shake in any deal in the music industry. Well, it happens. But it's, especially a group like this. Kriss Kross was huge. I'm sure people listening to this, like, maybe they weren't even alive when Kriss Kross was doing their thing. But Kriss Kross was huge. They toured a lot. I'm sure they became millionaires themselves. But when you are dealing with kids or anybody in the music industry, and there's a lot of attention, a lot of money, how do you avoid, like, not being in this situation? Because somebody's gonna, no matter what the deal is, somebody's gonna look at your deal as, oh, you took advantage or you were shit. Like, how do you protect yourself from the criticism from people that don't understand the music industry just online? Or maybe somebody gets in their feelings and wants to go to the internet and just the story, there's like 8 versions of the story. Like, how do you protect against that? Or can you protect against, like, people not really understanding the situation, weighing in and trying to sway the public's opinion?
No, I don't think you can.
So yeah, maybe this is part of the reason why we don't have any young artists anymore, because, it's tough. I could imagine it being very tough to navigate, depending on who the parents are, who just the support system is, because of the public threats to people online. Like, it could probably get very messy. I'm sure that's a factor, but I really do think it's unfortunate that we don't have do you know of any younger artists that potentially, I know there's a young girl named Van who was rapping, and I think she's, like, gone on to she still puts out music, and she does, like, some acting, some YouTube stuff. Do you think, like, most people, if they're young, they just go to the YouTube direction, or?
These days, yeah. Because artist development, I think we've talked about this before. Artist development has really taken a backseat to virality. Yeah. And so that's a big reason why, according to you at least, this is your theory, that the artists that we get aren't as polished as they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so, based on your premise, it makes sense that there wouldn't be kid groups anymore. And certainly not the types of kids groups that we had in the 80s and 90s, and even prior to that, but I wasn't alive in the 70s, where it felt curated, like Kriss Kross, for example. Jermaine Dupri is writing for them. So if I'm an adult, like right now, if I wanted to develop a young artist, I wouldn't, find a cool looking 12-year-old and be like, all right, I'm going to write a song about selling drugs. That wouldn't be appropriate. But nowadays, a 12-year-old, when I work with kids, that's what they're listening to. That might be what they're seeing in their communities. That's what they're going to write about. And so there's no curation. They go straight to the internet. If it goes viral, then the label sign them.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just play one more, because I thought there was one other thing that I wanted to touch on with this Jermaine Dupri story.
Just keeps going on and on and on, right? I need all of you niggas that's saying all of this shit to come to the front of the congregation right now. Come down here and sit. We gonna unpack this right now. So just so y'all clear, I want y'all to hear me really, really good. There was a time in Atlanta when young kids didn't want to rap. There was a time in Atlanta when young kids didn't even have an idea that they could become rappers. There was a time in Atlanta when a young producer went to a mall and met two kids that weren't even a group. They was just two kids. I saw them and I said, yo, what y'all do? And the two kids told me nothing. And I keep saying two kids because...
So yeah, I mean, it's just, it just goes back to like, you know, in any deal that you're about to do, like, you know, I just think it's important to have somebody experienced on the team to better understand what is fair. Because all the people from the outside are going to look in and tell you that you're probably getting taken advantage of. But what is fair for kids that had no dreams or desires to rap, get thrust into this world? Now they're like on top of the world and touring, making a bunch of money. Like what like if you put all of the income streams into one pot and said, what percentage do they deserve from that? You know, you're going to get a million different answers.
Yeah, and you know what's hard is we always talk about this when we cover these types of stories. There are at least 3 sides to this story, probably 4 or 5, and we don't know what really went down. But we're assuming that, or the people are assuming that Jermaine Dupri took advantage of them because the tragedies that befell the members of Kriss Kross, the kids, you know, the overdose death, and then the other member, and they're both named Kriss, but the Kriss that's still alive isn't doing well financially, and it felt like their careers kind of crashed and burned when they grew up, and you know, who knows what type of money they made? Because you're right. They toured, but they didn't just tour. They were on tour with Michael Jackson at some point, and they were huge. I mean, 4 times platinum. I think their first album went at 3 or 4 times platinum. Their second album at least went 1 time platinum. So after that, Jermaine Dupri's career went up because it was Kriss Kross, The Brat, Escape, a whole bunch of R&B acts after that. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the most accomplished, prolific producers that we have still with us. But from the outside looking in, you could say, all right, well, Jermaine Dupri's filthy rich, and he got filthy rich off of Kriss Kross and then everything that followed. And these kids are out here and they're messed up, and they're not kids; they're grown adults now. They were 13 when they dropped way back in the 90s. They were older than me. I don't know what the arrangement was. Jermaine Dupri's not, you know, and you talk about this, Dame, where when someone starts getting in front of the camera and they're embedded in the music business, like I think I do this and you tell me to chill. Jermaine Dupri's doing this. He's using music business terms. He's talking about writers splits, but like no one knows what that means. And right. So if you're a little ass kid, you don't know what that means. Your parents don't know what that means. And later on in this episode, I want to talk about a grown-ass man who had music business mentorship who didn't know what it meant. And he's a grown adult. So people fuck their shit up all the time. And it's not just a one-sided thing. It's not just a straightforward matter of this person being predatory. It's a matter of people just making decisions. And I'm sure, you know, at age 13, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. If I got signed at age 13, someone just wrote all the songs for me. I just had to rap them. One, it would have been a disaster because I had a terrible voice even back then. But let's say it went crazy and, you know, I checked the Ace title search. Neither of the Krisses do own any publishing or writers shares. They don't own any equity in these songs. And I'm pretty sure they don't own any equity in the master. So they're relying on, they wouldn't have been getting mechanical royalties, performance royalties. If there are syncs, they wouldn't be getting those. They'd be getting whatever they're getting off of touring, off of the label advance, and off of sound recording royalties, and maybe other stuff, appearances, that kind of thing. But yeah, if there are $100 million made off their career, they are making a very small portion of that because that's the way IP law works. I think this is just me personally, just to secure these kids' futures. I think it would have been the right thing to do to just cut them, like give them 5% on every song. You're still going to get rich as the person who, I know they didn't create anything. I know technically they're not entitled to songwriting and publishing shares, but just give them a little 5% because that money, those royalties are theoretically forever. They might be getting those checks in perpetuity. You know what I mean? So that could have helped them. I don't know. I don't think these are conversations that people want to have. Because if you're a kid, like I said, if I'm 13 at the time and they're like, all right, you're going to go on tour with Michael Jackson and you're going to get paid, $200,000. 2,000? What? I'm 13? Hell yeah, I'm going to take that. My parents are going to take, they don't know what the hell's going on. Someone else might be making $1 million off that tour. But then again, that's kind of always going to be the dynamic in the music business. You just have to shift the knob a little to make it fairer. And unfortunately, a lot of times someone ends up getting the short end of the stick for various reasons. In this case, was it the right thing to do? That's the question. Was it the ethical thing to do based on the way the music business generally works? Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's what Jermaine Dupri is trying to explain to people, but it's not translating because the average person doesn't understand that.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't sound like it's on the up and I'm sure to some extent, like the kids did get exploited. But I would say several things. One, when you're young or at any time, I think it's important to have people that are focused on your health, like your mental health and just kind of your transition as you grow as an artist, because it's not normal to be getting praised, be getting criticism, like all this social media. And I know they didn't have social media at the time, but they had like real media. And I'm sure they were in all the magazines. They were on all the talk shows. Like that's not normal for a kid to grow up that way. So, maybe they had that kind of support, maybe they didn't, but I think it's important nonetheless. And I know when you start getting that kind of money, you're not really thinking about the future in your mind, like, oh, this is just going to keep coming, right? So you're probably not learning about, how royalties work, and you're definitely not tucking money away. So just that financial literacy, that music knowledge, it wasn't there, obviously, or they wouldn't be in the position. I know one of them has passed away. How old? I haven't seen the other one, and hell, I thought the other one might have passed away too.
No, he's still around. You know the crazy thing. I'm learning a lot about their career. So I assume, this is just my assumption, because I remember when Kriss Kross came out as adults and they dropped the Young, Rich, and Dangerous album, and they had that single Tonight's the Night, and I was like, oh, this is so weird, because I'm still a kid at the time, but I'm like, oh, they're cussing now, and there are adult themes in this music. Jermaine Dupri was still writing 100% of everything.
Wait, that's the one. Tonight,
yeah, but
my whole crew makes G's. Tonight's
Tonight's the night, baby. Yeah. So that was, see, we were both old. So they that album went gold. That was like the beginning of the end. Nowadays, an album going gold, that's great. It's still a hit album,
right? So
it went gold, but even then, Jermaine Dupri is still doing everything.
But that just shows you, like, that I don't know what the timeline was between the younger albums and them as young adults, but like they were still cool with them then, cool enough to make another album at least.
Unless they were locked in. Who know? Again, we have no idea. They might have been locked in. But then again, what? Like I saw, I forget his name. It was on Threads. He posted a thread that said, I'm gonna make a course or a masterclass on showing musicians how to save their money so they don't end up messed up. And I replied, I've done this several times and no one cared. No one watched it.
Yeah.
I had investment people on there. I had my friend who fucked his money up so badly several times talking about his experience. Those videos don't do well. People aren't trying to, because it's not entertaining.
It's not
And
entertaining, but most of the people that are watching videos are trying to get to the money, right? So that they're
right.
not trying to watch a video like for when they eventually land some money. Like most people are trying to get to a point where consistent money is coming in.
But then they eventually get to the money, and then you hear about them.
But
messing
that's not
things up.
top of mind. That's not, unless you're thinking 4 steps ahead and you're confident that eventually the money will come in. You're not interested in that video.
Well, you know what? Look, I'm not going to lie and act like I've never done that and made it. I'm going to talk about a situation like that where I'm like, why did he do this? But we've all. I think maybe you haven't. I have. I've done this where you just kind of, you shouldn't be entering into this type of deal, and you do it anyway, or you want to do it anyway. You're like, I know this is a bad deal. I know these terms are terrible, but let me just do it for X, Y, and Z factor. Because I need the money, or because I feel like this will maybe turn out better. Like I can turn this bad situation into a positive, or I just want something. I feel like by being stagnant, or I like this person, all types of reasons. And it can turn out all that.
But those XYZ are important because sometimes it's not all about the money. Even the feature film that I mentioned, it's not a bad deal for us, but in my opinion, if it was more fair, we would get more ownership, but we're not even pushing for it because the XYZ factors are real, right? We feel like it will elevate Ja's presence, and the opportunities after that, should be bigger than the ones that we're currently receiving. So, you got to see what the XYZ is sometimes very important and oftentimes more important than the money. So, you could look back at it and be like,
sometimes though, but it's like, if the XYZ is social, then why isn't the deal better? Or if the XYZ is about momentum, well, then if that momentum comes, you're going to have regrets. So my point is, oftentimes in the business, we make these decisions that don't make sense. And it's like the business just hypnotizes us. We know better. And then there are the people who don't know better, and then they really screw up.
So the question I ask myself, even when there's a deal where I feel like I should be getting more, it's like, okay, with the deal as is, am I better off doing it than not?